Is Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint a deep Dynasty stash? We're talking about that in today's video. Give us a like and subscribe, everyone. We are inching closer to 500 subscribers. You know, I think I mentioned in an earlier video, I think it was on one of the tight ends, I think, oh, this is going to be my last deep Dynasty stash. And I changed my mind. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do at least one more, maybe a couple more. We'll see. It's early training camp, so we're starting to get, a couple guys who maybe I never even really thought of making a video on or making a name for themselves. So Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, I had a viewer directly asked me for this video, and so I thought, why not? So 6'2", 195 out of the University of Georgia. He went undrafted to the Commanders. You see his 2023 numbers there, 34 catches, 534 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Not a whole lot of production from Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, right? He basically came to Georgia as a freshman in 2020, and I don't really hold that against anyone. If you're a freshman in 2020, I mean, that season was just all messed up, right? We didn't even know if it was going to happen. I don't even know what was, can you even practice with the team and all that crap, So he didn't do anything. Didn't do anything his second year in 2021, which is kind of like his true rookie year or freshman year. And then the last 2 years, he started to produce a little bit. Kind of more of more as a field stretcher last year for Georgia. 34 catches, 535 yards. That's over 15 and a half yards per reception. The combine numbers are concerning. Now, he actually didn't participate in the combine, so most of these are from his pro day. But I've seen 4.81, 4.84 for his 40. I don't know what's official. I don't even know if it is official, but that's really, really bad. Even if they're off, even if it's a high 4.7, that's really bad. You don't see wide receivers in the NFL run this slow. Again, especially guys who aren't particularly big, right? They're not like they're 220, 225 players. He's 195, 6'2", 195. He should, generally, NFL receivers are running faster. So that's already a knock. I don't know what his 10-yard split is, but I can't imagine it's very good. Again, this is how fast you are within the first 10 yards of your 40-yard dash. Can't imagine it's that great. His vertical, also, 35. 35 inches, not great. That's a under 50th percentile. His three cone drill was terrible. It was at the 3 percentile, right? He was in the 3rd percentile, the 3 percentile. I don't even know how to say it because we don't get these normally. Like, he was one of the worst in the history of the combine, essentially. His shuttle was terrible, 8 percentile. His broad jump, not very good, 37th percentile. Bench press, 20th percent. Just everything about him, besides his hands and arm length, are average to below, are really well below average. Well below average. The only thing going for him is, well, we'll get into it because it's not his production. You see his career dominator. This is percentage of Georgia's passing offense that he was responsible for. And this is over the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, 11%, 14% last year, 11% over the last 2 years. So not very productive. Now, Georgia, you had Brock Bowers, you had Ladd McConkey, players like that. But you'd like to see a little bit more. He was 3rd last year in 2023. He was 3rd on the team. Brock Bowers is 1, Dominic Lovett 2, and then Jacksaint was 3rd. So not a whole lot of production here. His PFF grade is solid, not great. He's more of an out wide receiver, has played in the slot, but he is more of that. To me, he's definitely more of that outside X receiver. If he's going to carve out a role in the NFL, he's going to be that outside X receiver. Some of his analytical numbers here, 2.47 yards per route run is actually pretty good. So that is something in the feather in his cap in terms of, his lack of production could be more because he's just not out there running routes enough. They're not using him as much, right? Normally, if we're seeing a player with only 500 yards or so, if they're an everyday out there all the time, or every game out there all the time running routes, that yards per route run number is going to be very low. It's going to be it's going to be below 1.5 or something. So this just shows that when he was out there, he was actually pretty good in terms of getting targeted and getting yards. Just for reference, I'll pull up some of the other receivers and their yards per route run numbers. Obviously you have the stud receivers, the top guys. Malik Neighbors was at 3.64, Marvin Harrison 3.44. But some other notable guys that were, Malachi Corley 2.78, Tet McMillan, who a lot of people think is a top 10 pick in this coming draft, is 2.79. Other guys like Brian Thomas at 2.61. So 2.47 is actually a pretty solid number there. His ADOT is good. That's kind of in the range where we want to see. Average depth of target at 11.7. So even though he was a little bit more of a field stretcher last year for Georgia, this is over the course of his career. He kind of showed that he can play. He's not just a field stretcher. His yak is pretty low at 4.1. It's not great. Drop percentage is fantastic, 2.6%. I think he has 2 seasons, including this last one, where he actually didn't drop a pass. If I'm just double checking that real quick. Yeah, he didn't drop a pass over the last 2 years. He dropped 2 passes in 2021, which is actually bringing this to 2.67. Other than that, he never dropped a pass in his career. He's dropped 2 passes out of 105 targets. So that's really, really good. That's something to kind of put you got to have something that you're good in, right? So what I think that he can exceed in is that he has good, strong hands. He can make contested catches, 48.3%. Last year alone was at 63.6%. So his most targeted year, his highest reception, highest yards year, his best year productive wise. He also had the best contested catch percentage at 63.6%. So that's really, really good. That's where I think he can win potentially. If he's going to get on the field as an outside X receiver, he's going to need to do a couple things. Reliable pass catcher, strong hands, not dropping passes, making contested catches, and run blocking. Those are how he's going to get on the field if he is. Now, I don't see it happening year one. We'll get into that. His contested target percentage is at 28%. This is a number that I'm looking at more and more. I think it might be a number that's kind of predictive of route running. We don't really have this definitive number that tells you, oh, this player is good at route running or not. Which to me is the most important, probably the most important trait of a wide receiver is your route running ability, along with being able to catch the ball, obviously. You get guys who are a little bit slower, but who are amazing route runners, and they're going to be, playing the NFL forever. Keenan Allen is someone that comes to mind. Keenan Allen ran a 4.71, right? A 4.71, usually a death note. The dude's maybe the best route runner over the last decade or so, one of the best route runners over the last decade. So contested target percentage, you do want to see this number below 20%. His is at 28%, which just shows he's not creating a whole lot of separation. 28% of his targets are contested. Now, there's other things that play into that. It's not just the route running ability of the receiver. It's maybe the kind of balls that he's getting from his quarterback. But I think over the course of a career, which is what this number is, over the course of a career, it is a little bit indicative of route running, in my opinion. Now, he only has 105 targets in a 4-year career. He's not like a big target guy, but still 28%, not great. Not great, Bob, right? Not great. 28% is a lot. It's pretty high. One of the highest that we've seen. Now, that being said, if you're going to make up for that, making contested catches at a 50 or 60% clip is how you kind of make up for that a little bit, right? So at least he's doing one of those two things. If you are consistently being contested, you can't create separation and you can't catch contested targets, then you have a huge problem. At least he can do one of those things. You see his yards per route run by scheme, much, much, much better in zone, which makes sense. which makes sense a little bit just because he's not really creating separation. A little bit easier to create separation in zone than it is man. His man numbers is horrendous, which could be an issue being an outside receiver in the NFL, because although teams do play 60-70% zone nowadays, one, you still get the 30 to 40% man coverage. Two, you still get a hybrid number. And I'm not sure how, you get a lot of situations where you're playing a cover 6 with a 2-man on one side, right? Meaning on one side they're playing a cover 4, the other side they're playing a cover 2, but they're playing a cover 2-man. Or sometimes you get a cover 3 where the one of the outside corners are actually matching the wide receiver. Even though it's technically a zone coverage, everyone else is playing zone, that outside corner is matching the outside receiver. So that's an issue. You need to be able, obviously we say we want to see that you're better in zone than man coverage, but this is a bad number for man coverage. This is really bad. Overall, what do I think of Marcus Rosemy? I believe it is pronounced Jacksaint. I don't have too much hope here. He would be pretty low on my list in a deep dynasty, as a dynasty stash. And that's all we're talking about right here. This is, to me, if you're approaching 30 players on your roster, or you have 10 taxi squads or something, okay, then I can see you throwing them on there and seeing what happens. But if you're anything under 30 of a roster, I find it hard to squeeze him in on your roster. There's just other players, mostly running backs, that I want to put stock into, and backup quarterbacks. Now, again, the strengths that I saw on the film here: great hand-eye coordination. His reliability with catching the ball is great, and that's going to potentially get you on the field. If you just if they can rely on you catching the ball. Again, his contested catch numbers are pretty impressive, especially from last year. They are pretty impressive. He is a very good run blocker for a wide receiver, maybe one of the best in the NFL. I'm actually going to try and potentially pull that up. I don't know if I can blocking. Yeah, I don't know if I can get that, but he's one of the best. I said NFL, but he was one of the better ones in NCAA, I think, last year, just by judging by the number that I see here. He is a good route runner. He just doesn't have the lateral, the stuff that the 3-cone and stuff like that measure, the shuttle, like your lateral ability to get in and out of your breaks. That's just lacking. It's lacking a lot, in my opinion. So, again, good blocker, good contested catch guy, reliable hands. He has the arms and hands to kind of help his catch radius. So he has a potential to play out there because he can do those 3 things, which is very important for an X receiver. Now, again, his lack of speed is concerning. He has a big time creating separation. If you can't create separation in college, you're going to have a big time problem creating separation in the NFL. And think about him. He played at Georgia. So he's playing a lot of NFL caliber players in the SEC there. So that's just not very, it's not exciting. It's not great to see. And I mentioned his route running, even though it is solid, it does need to be refined a little bit. And then his yak potential is not there. So overall, he's on the Commanders. To me, I don't know how many wide receivers the Commanders are going to hold. I assume at least 5. So I would assume, and I'm just kind of, obviously you have McLaurin, Dotson, and Luke McCaffrey. Those guys are locks to make the roster. So at best, he's the wide receiver 4. You have a guy like Diami Brown on the team who I would assume is going to play, he's going to be there more for the special teams play. Olamide Zaccheaus, Jamison Crowder, guys that, names that we've heard, professional wide receivers that have been, wide receiver 2s or 3s on teams before. He has an uphill battle to even make the roster, in my opinion. He has an uphill battle to make the roster. You look at the depth chart on ESPN and they list 12 wide receivers. He's not even on one of the 12. So he has an uphill battle. He'll make amazing, impressive catches. You're going to hear beat writers talk about, wow, Jacksaint just made this incredible one-handed catch, and that's going to get people excited. I'm not too excited. I don't want to stash him. Now, if he makes the team, that's a different story. But as of where we sit right now on July 29th, I think it's an uphill battle to even make the team. So there you have it, guys. We'll see if we'll be back with more. That is Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Appreciate you guys watching. Catch you all in the next